Okay, so I am going to work this problem for you, and hopefully this will clear up your situation. And let me get that information up. So this was the problem. Um, the data below, okay, it says, can you predict gold medal times by the year? So it would be year predicts times. And I wanted to make sure then that the year is the predictor variable or the independent variable, and times are then your response variable. So that's the first two questions, and then you need to put your data into Minitab, which I have it over here. Years and times, double check those, then you go to Stat, Regression, Fitted Line Plot. Once you do, we have to figure out which one to put where, and we just said that year was the predictor variable and that your response variable is times from over here, and you said you were okay with that, so that's great. Then click OK, and when you do, you get these answers. So let's talk about it, because I think you might be getting the answers but not quite knowing what to do with those. So it says, what is the y-intercept? So you take this equation, which I've put here, and the y-intercept is always going to be this front number, and it asks us to round it to a whole number. So the answer is 737. What is the slope? You will also get it from this regression equation, and it will be the number, that second number, and make sure you include its sign. Also include the sign with this number had it been a negative 737. So this says answer with 4 decimal places, so the slope is a negative 0.3447. The next question asks what's your R value. So you use the R squared from the model, which is right here, and R squared, you have to change that to a decimal, so that becomes 0.8620, and then take the square root of that to find R. So we're taking the square root of 0.8620, which is 0.9284. Okay, there's something you have to note here. So now we found R is 0.9284, but it always has to take the sign of the slope, and we found the slope up here to be negative, so your R is negative, and it asks us to round to 3 decimal places. So we got 0.9284, but since the slope's negative, that's negative, and since it asks us to round to 3 decimal places, it's negative 0.928. So hopefully that helps on that. The R value is close to 1, so it is a strong negative relationship between the two variables. That means as one goes up, the other goes down. So what we're finding out here is, and there's your negative slope, as the year increases, the time decreases. So that's why it's a negative 0.928, which is a strong negative relationship. Remember, the closer you get to 1, the stronger the relationship is, and 0.9 is very close to 1, or negative 0.9 is very close to negative 1. What is the R squared value? Okay, it pretty much gave us that. Is 86.20%. You have to just change that to a decimal, and then again round it to 3 decimal places, so it's 0.8620, which is just 0.862 as far as 3 decimal places. What is your p-value? Our p-value is listed right here, so I have that copied here. So p is 0.008, and remember, you always use the same hypothesis on this test. So rho is equal to 0, which means there's no correlation. That means the correlation 0, which is no correlation. Or the alternate hypothesis is always going to be rho not equal to 0, so there would be a correlation if we choose that one. And we compare our p to, it told us to compare it, let's see, in the problem it told us to compare it to the significance level of 0.05. So 0.008 is less than 0.050, so we reject the null. So we get rid of the null hypothesis, cross that out, and if we cross that out, which I'm trying to do here, if we cross that out, that means there is a correlation between times and years, and we have found that to be a very strong negative correlation. So I hope that helps.